Hello out there, and today we're going to be doing a recap of the Give a Knife, Take a Knife pass around that started in 2019, and then also doing a bunch of mini reviews of the knives that you see here that came back to me. And if you aren't familiar with the Give a Knife, Take a Knife pass around, or the GACTAC as it's called, there is a playlist on my channel. You can check out all of the people who posted videos about their experience with it, but the way that it worked is I started with a group of 6 of my knives, sent them out around the country to a bunch of different people. Each person took a look at all the knives, picked one of them to keep, and then replaced it with something else before sending it on to the next person. So it was just a really fun time. It was a much bigger idea, I guess, this time around than the first time that I did it, because this started at the end of 2019 and this took over a year for it to go through all the people who were involved. So if I ever do this again, which I think I will in some capacity, it'll definitely be on a smaller scale, sort of to keep, I don't know, the community a little bit more together, because at this time it seemed like the people who got the knives first didn't really have any interest in keeping up with it like months and months and months later. So maybe something a little bit faster next time around. But I digress. Today we're going to go through the 7 knives that came back to me. I started with 6. I got 7 back, so that's a win. Not sure exactly how that happened. Again, you can go and check out some of the videos and piece together how the knives went from what started out to what they are now. All right, and this video, of course, will be on that playlist as well. But yeah, let's just get started with some of them, because these knives, although I might be keeping a few of them forever and doing full reviews on them, they won't all be getting that treatment, so I want to go through them specifically a little bit today. And let's just move some stuff randomly out of the way here and start with this one over here. So right here is the Steel Will Piercer. And I've been a pretty big steel will fan, as you guys might know. Last year, the Shaola was my knife of the year. And this year, I've got a knife that is pretty close to the top of my favorites of the year in the Skilla. So getting another steel will in the Piercer was pretty exciting when I saw that this was in the box coming back to me. And unfortunately, I just don't really love this model. I remember handling it once or twice at a show, you know, and just getting my hands on it and thinking about it. But I don't know, what I always thought about when I looked at this knife was that it looked like a sketch of a knife that wasn't quite finished, but that's what they produced. It just looks unfinished. It looks, I don't know, like a rough draft. So the looks of the knife aren't really all that impressive to me. I mean, as far as the name of the knife goes, Piercer, I mean, it definitely serves that purpose. As you can see, it does have a pretty neat blade shape, but I don't know, just all in all, it just doesn't seem like the one for me. It is relatively light, feels really good in the hand, probably a good user knife for a lot of people who are looking for, you know, just a good, a little bit more like expensive than a cheap beater, you know, something more in like the $50 range, D2. Something to beat up on that's going to serve them well. But yeah, as far as looks go and the aesthetics, this one really just isn't working for me. Another thing that's sort of weird about it is that the action, you can spider flick it. So if you like to spider flick, that's great. But if you don't, then opening this knife is just a little bit odd. This thumb hole you can push out easily, but like flicking it, I don't know, it takes a little bit of time to get used to it, and it just is a little bit awkward. So yeah, really not my favorite knife, and not one that I will likely keep forever, but definitely interesting to get my hands on a different steel will, excuse me. But as I said, with the steel wills that I like as much as I do in my collection, this one just doesn't hold a candle to those, so there's that. Next, let's take a look at a little bit of a fancy one. So there were some really nice knives that ended up in the pass around, guys. It was supposed to be like a $40 to $50 budget, so you know, something economical that wouldn't break the bank, and then that way you probably weren't giving up anything that was too special, you know, and you could sort of, there was wiggle room in order to make it so, you know, there weren't really these major restrictions, you know. Some people just started going overboard, though, with what they were putting in, and that was very kind, and a lot of those really, like, higher-end, more expensive knives got picked up by other people, and that's great. This one made it back to me, and this is the Artisan Shark. And the Shark is a design that has a number of different iterations from Artisan. Some of them are more budget. This is the more expensive one with titanium and S35 VN, and you can see this carbon fiber inlay. What I'll say about this knife is that just if you take a look at it, it has zero surprises. So everything that you think about this knife right off the bat is pretty much the way that it is. You can see there's a little bit of scratching here on the titanium. The clip really isn't the best clip for a knife that's going to be a gent's carry. You know, it doesn't carry and conceal all that well. So I don't know, maybe I'd suggest just removing that and carrying that just like in a jacket pocket and just carrying it loose. But it is, there we go. It is super stabby, super classy. It does have a really nice visual appeal to it, I'll say that. And the action is pretty darn good as well. So construction-wise, I don't really have any big issues. But one interesting talking point here is that the pivot doesn't have a simple way of taking it apart. You know, it doesn't have a traditional screw hole. Let's say that. So, you know, so what you have is a few places where you can stick in a flathead, and you can see there's some gunk in these, but there's also, in all these lines, there's a few scratches where people tried to do that in the past, whoever owned this knife, you know, prior. And so it's just a little gunked up and a little bit blemished there. But it is relatively easy if you get the right size flathead to tighten and loosen. So, I don't know, I'm not sure if there's a special tool for it, but I don't know, I just don't get the point of doing something like that. The other hardware, though, does have some pretty nice little embellishments to it, so it does have a nice flare there. It's a good-looking knife overall. Yeah, I'm not sure that as far as like the gents carry style goes, that this is exactly right up my alley, but it's a nice knife, and yeah, it's a good example of Artisan doing something pretty well. And again, these are like $160. I think that's a pretty darn fair price for that. All right, next, let's talk about this bad boy. So this is a knife from Zahn Knife Company, and this is made by Stedman, and I believe this is, let's see if we can get this focused. This is the ZKC D01. Again, you can see from Stedman Design, and this is the factory finish, so pretty cool, almost like acid wash finish on the blade here. Digging that. We have a jade green G10 right here, so natural G10 with a blue backspacer. This is a beast of a knife, almost 4 inches of cutting edge, and for that reason, it's actually going to stay in my collection. Of all these knives, this one is definitely going to stick around because I just don't have anything else like it right now. And these are in like the $50 price range, I think 50 to 60 bucks. And what I'll say about it is sort of right in the same kind of threshold in the mold of all the other kind of affordable Chinese-made $50 D2 flippers that are out there. The only difference is this one is in 440C, so that's our blade steel, which I have no problem with. I like 440C, and again, 440C versus D2 for a knife that I'm just going to beat up on isn't going to be a big deal. The action is really good. It's pretty light for the size, feels really good in the hand, which a large knife definitely should. So while this isn't the most impressive knife on the planet, let's say, there's nothing about it that jumps out as being really negative. You know, I like the overall design. Again, if I'm just looking for a knife for myself, just a typical EDC, I'd prefer it to be in a smaller package. But, you know, a knife of this size, 5.21 ounces, it really isn't bad. It doesn't feel like it is overly large. And let's put it next to the PM2 so you can sort of get an understanding that it is significantly larger than a PM2. So, yeah, I really don't have anything in this vein in my collection, so it's going to stick around, and I like it. So we have that. Which other ones do we have? All right. So let's bring out one that has been on my list for a while. So this is the CRKT GSD, Get Shit Done by Liang Ma. I'm a big fan of this design. And when I saw someone put this into the box, I was pumped about it. I was hoping, like, and I had a belief that no one else would pick it up. I didn't think anyone would want it, but because I'm sort of the guy who wants all the old stuff that no one else wants. And I just kept hoping that this would make it back to me, and it did. And so the GSD, Liang Ma design, is it's a great one, and this is the CRKT version, so it's like the cheaper and more inexpensive. And what's really neat about this design is that I think this was designed for CRKT at a budget price, and then Liang Ma or someone else liked the design a whole lot more, and it became a mid-tech. So I think this is what springboarded the more expensive version, which is usually not the case. Getting this one into the hand, it is a little bit of a dense piece of weight here. And actually, let's bring the scale right back, because it weighs more than this big beast that I just looked at beforehand. Because again, stainless steel frame lock, no interior weight relief or anything. So yeah, it is a little bit on the dense side, but it's a great design, great overall lines, you know, and while it isn't perfect, the action isn't perfect, and it's a little slick on the stainless steel, it is something that, you know, I just want to hold on to because I just like the overall lines so much. It also does have a bit of an issue with this clip. It should have had a better clip. So this milled clip, it just doesn't have great retention depending on the pockets that you're wearing, so on the pants that you're wearing. So yeah, it's one of those things where I just have this this draw to it because of the design and all those other aspects of it that aren't great. I'm trying to forgive them as much as I can because I want to like this knife so much. One other interesting thing is that I posted a recap video like halfway through this pass around, guys. I brought all the knives back to me. I did a recap just to sort of like keep everybody updated, and then I sent them back out to the next person. And someone watching that, Winchester, who's a follower of the channel, had an extra one of these lying around and was like, hey man, even if you don't get that knife back, I'll send you another one. So look at that. I've got one of my own as well. So now I have two, because I have this one with a flat top VEF serrations, which I actually really like on this model as well. It looks pretty cool. So I'm definitely going to hold on to this one. And I don't know what the future is going to be for the other. I don't know what the future actually will be for this, because I've been thinking about potentially like getting it modded by someone who could do a really good job and like do some interior weight relief. And I know it would be silly to invest in a knife that's only like a $40 or $50 knife, but this really could be, if I got like a different designed clip and cut the weight a little bit, this could be among my favorite knives in my collection just because I like the design that much. So there we are. Liang Ma GSD, get shit done, not stuff. Don't be a pansy. Couple more knives. Let's talk about this one. This is the Bastion Falcon. And this is a knife that at first look, it jumps out at you and is like, all right, that's super cool. And then, I don't know, the more I think about it, the more I know that it's not for me, but I'm still trying to appreciate some of the cool stuff about this. So the Bastion Falcon, you can see Tanto blade, not really my thing. And while I don't mind the dual kind of finish on the blade, in this case, I don't know, it just isn't what, it doesn't jump out at me as being my style in this case. D2 blade on this, really good action though. Really good action, a little bit of play in the detent, but really nice and snappy. But the big appeal here is that we have a carbon fiber and titanium handle frame. And I've heard this referred to by a couple people as a bolster lock, but what it really looks like to me is if you take a really close look, it looks like this is a frame lock knife with just a massive overlay of carbon fiber. And I'm not sure exactly if that's what like a bolster lock is, but you can see that titanium goes all the way through. So I don't know, I'm not sure what the classification is or if it matters, but I think it's the best looking part of the knife. And so when I was thinking about this knife and like who it would be for, since it, you know, obviously really isn't my style, thinking, you know, there's not that many Tantos out there, at least at a affordable price, that have these like nice materials on the handle that could be carried in a somewhat classy way. And sure, the clip might be a little bit lower than you want, and again, you might not like the blade finish, but if you're into Tantos, this is a pretty classy looking piece that might be interesting to you. So while it's not something that I'm going to put in my EDC rotation at all, I can understand people looking at this and thinking, yeah, that's pretty sick. So we have that one. Two knives left. We're going to end with the Protec in just a minute because I'm going to end up doing a full review of that one as well. But let's get into this one right here. This is the CRKT Aux. And I don't like this knife. I've reviewed it. I reviewed it when it came out. I was super, super pumped when this knife came out, guys. And yeah, maybe I'll link to the review. If you really care, just find it. I was really excited about it because it's a Lucas Burnley design, and I'm a big fan of the squid. And I think this might have been one of his like first CRKTs to come out after the squid. It's either that or it came out at around like the same time as the Polar or something else. So like this came out with a decent amount of fanfare at a time where like CRKT was really really making some news, and I was expecting this to be a home run, and it was just not a home run. And it's not that it isn't a good looking knife, and it's not that it won't perform just fine like every other 8CR, you know, on the same level of every other 8CR knife. It just has some odd design elements that just take me away from liking it. And the first one is just the shape here of the jimping and then down to the thumb disc. It just doesn't make sense. Like the lines just don't make sense as to how this is done and why it's done this way. The jimping is up here. I don't know. It's not very grippy. So I don't know. Just like those lines don't work for me. The other thing is you can see there's a good amount of effort here to make this this liner lock easy to disengage. I mean, they did a lot of work in this area, and it didn't pan out for them. It's like very difficult knife to unlock for some reason, so you really have to dig in. It just does not make sense. And then the worst thing, saving the worst for last. So I'm left-handed, and I carry my knives in my right pocket, which means I keep the clip on its home spot. Right? And so what ends up happening is when I do a review, I'll like get the knife in my right hand and sort of get an understanding, try to get a feel if there's going to be a hot spot with that clip. But for the most part, you know, I hold the knife in my left hand, and a clip on a knife can be a bonus this way because it just gives me an extra place to hold on to. And that's almost never a hot spot. On this knife, there's definitely a hot spot when you have it in your hand this way, and it sucks over here too. So that's odd, and it's unusual for me, and it just really, really didn't work. And it's a bummer because I like the overall design, but just some of those implements there, or elements, just were not working out for me. So yeah, budget knife from CRKT. Not the worst thing in the world, and I'm sure there's some people who like it and will defend it, and good for them, but with as many other budget things that are out there, no need to get involved in that. Which leads me to this bad boy, the last one that was put in there, and I was pumped about this knife because the last person that the box went to was Bearded Gear. Bearded Gear's video is up there on that playlist as well, so check it out. And again, like I said, guys, there were some more expensive things in the box, and one of them was a Microtech, and I think it was the UTX 70. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's like the really small one. And as interested in that knife as I was, which wasn't very much because I don't really deal with OTFs, and it was a dual-bladed knife as well. You know, I knew I wouldn't be able to keep that one if it made it back to me, and Bearded Gear took that one out and replaced it with another automatic knife in this Protec Godson. And this is a knife that, while it isn't the perfect automatic design for me, it's pretty darn good, and I'm pumped about it. I've wanted a Protec for a while. You know, I'm interested in their manual stuff like the Mordax, and I got to check out the Malibu. But this knife, man, it's got a really, really good kick to it. It's super comfortable. The aluminum is a good quality aluminum. I love the stiletto blade shape and the coffin-shaped handle. Like, I really like that stuff. The only thing about the design and the lines that maybe I would change is if you remember like the Benchmade 530 and the 531, which are the precursors to the bug out, like that blade had a little bit more belly and was a little bit more round of a stiletto blade and a little bit like less intimidating maybe. So a knife that you wouldn't have to be, I don't know, with this one, I just feel if I busted this one out in public, it could create an issue for some people, you know, and that's all. And that's, you know, people are going to say, oh, you're worried about the sheeple, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but, you know, you do have to be concerned about that. And this one is a little bit more threatening and imposing than, say, a different kind of blade shape that was a little less stabby. But that aside, it's super sick, and I'm going to be doing a full review on it eventually because this one is sticking around and staying in the collection. So it's a huge win overall because I got a couple knives out of this that I really want to hold on to. I got some extra stuff that's probably going to end up in giveaways that are coming very soon. Hint, hint, stay tuned for my next video. And yeah. So it was a really good experience. So thank you to everyone. It's too many names to name them all, but thank you to all you guys who took part in it, and for all of you who followed along. Again, that playlist is down there if you want to follow along and just catch up and go through it. And another one of these will be coming sometime in the future. I don't know how far in the future, but it will be coming. We will be doing it again, and I'm looking forward to that and how that will change and progress in time. All right, but any questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, let me know down below. I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you for watching, and take care. Have a good one.